go down, I'm gonna make sure these bastards remember my fucking name.
Outstanding.
3, 2, 1, go. Greetings gamers, or should I say seasons greetings gamers. PEMBY'S here. Now, one guy in particular, Sakuraba1982, put in a comment on one of my videos to, for me to do, go over my render settings, just to compare notes, because he doesn't need any advice from me, because his videos are really nice. They look really good. Plus, he's a lucky bugger. He has the option to record from in HDMI from PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I don't like calling it the Xbone. I think it's a bit of a daft name, but anyway, that's just me. Right, now this software here is Record Central. Now I can only go off showing you Record Central. I used to have the the Roxio HD Pro. I still got it, but obviously, as you can see, what's your game capture there? I still got the software, it's installed. I don't need to keep it installed, but it's neither here nor there. It doesn't really matter. Now, most gameplays from a console are 720p gameplays. So if you click on Advanced tab here, you can go all the way up to 1080, 1920 by 1080. But there's no point, and I'll tell you why. If your original source material, if you look on the back of your game case, it'll say resolutions up to whatever. Now most games, Killzone 2, Killzone 3, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, quite a lot of games out there are only capable of being displayed on your TV in 720p. So set your recording accordingly. There's no point recording 1920 by 1080 when it's only 720, because all you're achieving is longer rendering times in Sony Vegas, for instance. Alright, so we're set for 720, 1280 by 720. Now my bit rate's 30 megabytes a second. I don't dip below that. I don't need to do 60 megabytes a second, because I really don't notice a difference. But in my case, there's another difference. There's another reason. I mean, my computer can't keep up with 60 megabytes a second, 60 frames a second. So that's why my frame rate's only 30 frames a second. And another point of what I make about 30 frames as opposed to 60, it only really matters when you're playing the game. You ask anybody who's played on a PlayStation 4, for instance, or a PC, top spec PC, using a mouse or using a controller, and they'll tell you 60 frames a second feels a lot better. It's a lot smoother, it's better actually as you're playing the game. But when you're actually making a video recording of it, 30 frames a second is enough, because that's where it doesn't really count as much. It's the feedback you're looking for in your joypad. The better experience of in terms of smoothness and how the game plays and how it feels when you're moving the controls. It all aids in the in a better experience, basically. You'll enjoy the game a lot more. I'm trying to explain this what I mean. But like I say, 30 frames a second is enough when you're recording your gameplay. For most people who's got an average monitor on the PC, you won't really see a difference between 60 frames and 30 frames. And these people that have a counter in up here in the corner, I'm thinking to myself, well, what the fuck are you doing that for? I mean, they're really obsessed with saying, oh shit, look at those frame rates dropping. Oh man, this is not good, this is not good. Well, if you divert your attention away from those dropping frame rates and just watch the video, you'll find it looks no different. You try it and see, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Right, now in my case, I record, I'm one of the lucky few who actually gets to record PS3 or PS4, I've had one, with a HDMI splitter. That's why all this is set for HDMI. So we're not going into the microphone at the moment because my microphone's plugged into my PC, not the PlayStation. Right, that's all that done. 1280, 30 megabytes a second. These are my settings. If you've got a really fast computer, go to the max on both. But as I say, 30 frames a second is only really comes into its own, 60 frames, I mean, when you're playing the game. Right, let's turn that off. Now, here we have a few HDMI recordings. And this one I've got open in Sony Vegas. It's one thing, the one tip I can give anybody, if you're going to import your video into Sony Vegas, if that's what you use, click on properties of your original video. The original video, it's 884 megabytes, right? So but if you go into the details, it's only 4 minutes 47 long, 1280 by 720. The data rate is, total bit rate is 25,851. Now, it says there, as if you've just seen, 30 megabytes a second, so it's a bit of a lie really. So you've lost about 4,500 kilobytes per second. Frame rate's 29 frames a second, but really it's 29.970. And the audio is 128 kilobytes a second. Now, if you remember, if you would have seen the audio bitrate I had set, it was 256. So I don't know what the hell's happened there. So that's another lie. But I'll have to look into that actually. But those are the properties of that video. So you right click, I do that, open with Vegas Pro. I do it that way. Here we have the project. Now this is Pro 12, and the difference with Pro 12 is it loads of projects in like this. The cursor's at the end. If you right click, go to properties, you can't select it, but you just press it like that. Press it, left click it. Notice it looks very dark and colourful. Looks a bit strange. There's a reason for that, and I'll go into that. Right click, properties. These are the first things you do. Disable resample. Okay. Now we go into my project properties. It's a HDV 720 30 frames a second. That's 29.970 frames a second. That's my template, you know, from the list. Width is 1280 of course, height 720 of course. These are all like come on as default. There we go, 29.970. I go to full range. Yeah, 8-bit, 32-bit is going to be better than 8-bit, right? I don't really notice the difference, but I always choose what I would say is the top one there. View transform. Now this is what comes on as default with Pro 12. Turn it off. Best Gaussian. Interpolate fields, and then these are unchecked. Apply. OK. I've already got it. Now if I just click on that, nice crisp clear image because it's a HDMI recording. Basically this is my video track, and this is what I add. Brightness and contrast, add. Now this, like I say, you've got to add your bits and bobs based on the source material you're using. Color corrector, add. Sharpen, add. OK. Brightness and contrasts, because it's HDMI recording and the colours are a lot richer and deeper, sometimes they look a bit dark. I just lighten it a bit. This is for Killzone 2, which is the setting I use for that game because it's nice and it's quite a dark game. 0.012, 0.010, and keep that the same. That's all I changed there. If I click that off, watch the screen. I know it's a very subtle difference, but that's without, that's with. Watch the dark sections and you'll see it go brighter. See? Brighter. That's with it, without. With, without. You can see a slight difference. Subtlety is the name of the game here. Color corrector. All I've changed is the saturation. Added a little extra saturation for new codec. That's what I've called it because of the codec I was using in Bandicam. Slide it down to your saturation. You'll notice the slide has gone to 1.10. 1.100. Now I must stress that these are my settings. These you can play about with. Yeah? But these are what I go with every time. I don't change it. Sharpen. Now, when it comes to HDMI recordings, I don't put a lot of sharpening in. If that was a component cable recording, the brightness and contrast setting would be different. I'd keep the colour corrector the same, but that'd be different, and the sharpening's going to be different as well. So I go to the light preset, 0.0250. Okay, that's what sharpening I add to the video. Brightness and contrast. If this was a component cable recording, which one was I using? I'll use that one. Right, and have a look at the settings there. 0.020, 0.050, so it's a big increase. Same, that's default as usual. And that's what I add to a component cable recording. So if you want to note those settings down, I'll give you a chance. I mean, like I say, if it looks good to you, great. If it doesn't, then just adjust it so it looks right to you. But because it's an HDMI recording, I'll go with that one. And that's that for the for what I had. But one thing I might as well show you anyway. Now, this audio track here, I find capture cards lose a bit of bass. They do lose a bit of bass frequencies when you're recording the audio. So what I do is I replace it. I have a lot of see these fruity things. It's not because I'm a fruit or anything. It's because I use what's it called? FL Studio, which is a digital audio workstation for creating your own tunes. You know, that's another tip I could give everybody. If you're worried about copyright, then get into making your own tracks, like I do. Now these are like under the third party. When you get Sony, you get all automatable, all these track optimize effects, 5.1 effects. But if you click on the third party tab, you get all what you've got installed on your PC. I mean, all these are installed because of FL Studio, like I say. But what I do is click on that, add. Okay, there we go. It's called Sorelia. It's a graphic equalizer, and I have some presets for tinny music. I use that one. Notice how the bass all these are bass, and all these on the right side are for your treble. So if it sounds a bit dull, increase these a little bit. But I just want to increase the bass, so I increase it like that. But I don't always do that. That's just another thing entirely. But finally, and you're probably breathing a sigh of relief as I've actually got to the end of this, render as. Right. It's an MP4, so why not render it as such? Customized template. HD 720, of course. That stays the same. That stays the same. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that because these are default things. Don't worry about that. Variable bitrate. You can put 2 pass, but it'll take longer, and you don't notice any visual quality difference. 20,000 kilobytes a second, or 20 megabytes a second. Yeah. Don't go below that, sorry. Render using CPU only, because my computer can only do that. If you've got a really fancy graphics card, you can render using a GPU. Audio 48,320. Don't go below 192 on there, and don't go below 41,000 on there. That's just me. System, don't worry about that. Project, the only thing you change is best. By default it says use project settings, so just excuse me, just select best, click OK and render away. Okay, that's how I render my videos. I think I've covered everything. I hope it's been an informative video for you, and you just watch it a few times and give me the views. But just pause it if you know something you've missed. Just stop it and rewind a little bit, and I'm sure if you're struggling to get your videos to look as good as the originals, for instance, because I mean you can just use raw captures, but sometimes they're bigger, the raw captures, than the original, than the files that you render. But it's worth it to do this with these three plugins. You've got the brightness and contrast, the color corrector, and the sharpening effects. Right, and I haven't got a video actually of this rendered, because I can show you the original video. Anyway, let's click that off. it's a bit jerky because, you know, Fraps is recording the screen. One that's in the game, of course, we all know it is. This is Michael's Veron, and quite a nice little motor. There's blue smoke effect. This is part of my Pimp My Ride series that I'm trying to get people enthusiastic about, you know. You know, people to say, well, oh, I can beat that, you know. Look at your car, you think it's a dog's bollocks, look at mine, you know. That kind of thing. Anyway, let's turn it off. And that's the original video recorded in HDMI. Alright, 30 megabytes a second, or as you could see, 25,000 kilobytes a second. I'm PEMBY'S66. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this has been helpful and informative. See you later.